deal of the decade comes once a week. Oh, you're a mortgage guy? Shade ball. Oh, you're a mortgage guy?
You must be a douchebag.
I can't trust you. It's cool to be an entrepreneur and people love to talk about all their success stories. It's a pretty sad day when you're like, oh, I just spent $380,000 on a loan that I don't want. Somebody I don't trust.
Welcome back to another episode of the Roots Podcast. I'm Tyler Lingle, joined by my co-host, Max Moore. Today, we've got a real treat for you. The dog of the mortgage industry himself, John Murphy, Murph Dog. John is the president and chief revenue officer of MJW Mortgage. Since jumping into the mortgage game back in 2009, he's been all about speed, service, and strategy. Over the years, he's built one of the fastest growing teams of originators in the Midwest, offering top tier programs, competitive rates, and a closing experience that gets deals done. But John's not just dominating mortgages. He's a true investor at heart. He owns both commercial and residential assets, giving him a rare full spectrum. I love that word, Max. Good word for the intro. View of the real estate game from the financing desk to the closing table and beyond. He's also a staple in the indie real estate scene, featured in Real Producers Magazine as a top tier partner and go-to expert. In this episode today, we dive into his journey, how he's built a powerhouse team, the principles that guide his investing decisions, and what agents and buyers need to know about the current lending environment. Let's get into it.
Love it. Thanks for the intro.
I want to go straight to the heart of it. What attributes make a great mortgage broker?
Yeah, absolutely. So lending is a weird vocation, because here's what nobody will tell you about being a mortgage person versus like a real estate professional. No one grows up and is like, I want to do mortgages. Every single mortgage person you talk to has a weird way they ended up in the space. Because mortgage people are bizarre, because banks who buy and aggregate a lot of the mortgages actually hate mortgages because it's an inconsistent experience for how do you build it, how do you maintain it, how do you service it. That's where you'll hear companies shutting down their residential mortgage channel or opening it up. So really what builds a great person is sometimes kind of a misfit personality, which is where it was a good vocation for me, because you have to be outside of the box. Number one is as an independent mortgage banker, which is our space, which is, to your point, mortgage broker, mortgage banker. You have to be someone who is really intuitive to listening to your customer to even get the opportunity to work with them. Number two is you have to be skilled with math, which again, in the modern world with ChatGPT and everything else, you ask somebody how to do some quick math, it can be difficult. And also you have to be knowledgeable in the guidelines and products, because you can tell someone, oh, it looks great. And I don't know if this has ever happened to you. Oh, we're rolling on this deal. And then you get a call, a week before closing. Hey, we're out of luck. Deal's dead, right? And nobody likes to admit that. So there's a lot of traits and like principles that go into being successful. But the first one is that you really have to be someone who's extremely resourceful, from looking at the data, structuring the file, understanding the parties involved to find solutions that work, that also are compliant and meet the regulatory requirements as well. So there's a lot there to talk about.
Yeah, I feel like mortgage brokers, agents, you know what they're doing because they're right in front of you juggling. They're literally we're clowns juggling balls. You guys are behind the scenes trying to put the entire circus together. And you're the ones that everybody gets pissed at, right? At the end of the day.
No doubt. So let's talk through some of the history of the mortgage business, what a lot of people don't realize. So there's been a variety of financial crises, and a lot of people, the great financial crisis, what happened and transpired is people placed the blame on the people that were creating and selling these loans, right? That's where everyone locks back. Oh, you're a mortgage guy? Shade ball. Oh, you're a mortgage guy?
You must be a douchebag.
I can't trust you. Hey, Murphy, I saw that movie. I could see you doing that. What was that thing called?
Big Short.
The Big Short, right? So what you realize really quick about the space is that trust is low. You have a lot of personal information from people, and they really are showing their financial life. Because in the modern world, one of the things I like about sports versus real life is like sports, you pass them the ball, you're like, they're not good, right? With lending, you could meet someone and say, oh my gosh, this person has to have everything together. They had a cool car, awesome apartment, all the items of what we'd consider financial security. And all of those are actually just artifacts that are making them go broke. And then we have to call people and say, hey, this didn't work out. And so there's a lot that goes into unboxing what really is successful, because a lender can't fix people's situations, a lender can't sell a product that the secondary market doesn't want. So as we look through this whole business and we talk through this being a successful mortgage lender or creating a mortgage company, there's so many pieces to it. But step one is you have to have a great originator who knows the rules and knows the guideline and is absolutely compliant and 100% by the book to participate in this market to get deals to the closing table. Because what happens and what gives maybe a good person make a bad lender is they won't tell people the truth. Like, hey, this is going to be extremely difficult to close, and it's probably not going to work out. If you're willing to take that risk that this deal is going to blow up in the next 8 days, you got to be good with it,
right? I'm the listing agent, and you're like, "Hey, just by the way, my guy submitted an offer. Good luck, buddy."
But you also have to instill confidence with the realtors and the seller. So it's a bit of a tightrope there.
Tightrope, no doubt, and especially coming out of the last couple of years. Because think about all the economic data, and this is one of the hard parts that I've learned about being a lender. We are participants in the market. So if the market doesn't like lower credit score loans, doesn't like low down payments, doesn't like their debt to income ratio or their income type, you don't have a loan. So as we talk through it, what some lenders like to do is they like to say, I can get them all done, man. I'll just get it done for you. And you've heard it. And then you send them money, you go, dude, you didn't get it done. Right? Like you said,
that's
you
an immediate red flag of I should never use you.
Yeah, exactly.
I can get it done. Just give me anyone.
Right, exactly. So really, when we talk through it, it's a myriad of knowing your rules and having that integrity, the ability to trust in yourself, to have the conversation that has to be had, and then also having a support structure, because no one's successful in the mortgage business alone. Every single agent can speak to multiple experiences that they go, that was one of the most stressful, painful things I've ever done, all because of the lender not saying kind of like the things I'm talking about up front. So to an open-ended question, not to pose another question, but that is why it's so difficult to just name one singular thing, that there's all these pieces to it, from the operations of the company to the ownership of the company to who is it? Is it a bank? Is it a direct lender out of California? And they're like, hey, if your loan closes, cool. If not, whatever. Or is it somebody like us who it's like we have a text, we text together, where I would never want to burn a bridge with someone in my network. So I'm always very careful to ever endorse something that might not work out, right? So those are all those pieces for me.
Well, what I love is I thought you were going to say something about selling better or being super personable or like wooing people, but you basically just talked about ethics.
No doubt, because one of the hardest parts about our business is when you look at any category of buying something, and this is what makes lending unique. There's wants, like luxury goods, there's needs, right? And then there's pains. Grocery store, pain, right? You got to eat, right? You got to eat, Max. Housing, you got to have a place to live, right? Mm-hmm. Medical, you break your arm, you're like, dude, I'll pay anything to get it fixed, right? Mm-hmm. So then we have the needs, right? We have these needs, and then we have wants, like luxury goods, which is a commonplace, a certain type of cell phone. With lending, because of that, and because of what you can do in the simple, how much money it is. Like when I started off as a mortgage broker, that means this for context for the podcast. We got paid a flat fee from whatever lender who we sent the loan to, and they would pay us a 1099 commission per transaction. Mm. When we transitioned to the lender, which is like going from AAA baseball to Major League Baseball, where when you're a full-blown lender like we are, you're Major League Baseball. You mess up a file, right? You close a bad loan. Guess what the bank says to you, that investor? You know that $380,000 loan that you and your team messed up, John? Mm. Here, you and my business partner, Michael Wampler, who our company's named after, get the pleasure to buy it back. And think about this. It's cool to be an entrepreneur, and people love to talk about all their success stories. It's a pretty sad day when you're like, oh, I just spent $380,000 on a loan that I don't want to somebody I don't trust, right? Like I still have a loan that we closed almost 4 years ago. Now it's at least 7.25% rate, so we're making 40 some odd grand on this loan. But this guy and I talked. I call him like once a month, like, hey man, 700 grand. Hey man, what's going on? Just checking in on you. I want to have good reports. What they call is there's non-performing failed loans, then there's performing. So I'm still getting paid, but it can't sell to the agencies to buy that loan. So it's my baby, right? It's my money sitting there. So at least he pays every month. But that's the thing where when I talk through the ethics of lending and doing the right thing and speaking it, because there's true blue consequences to these missteps. And it's not like, oh, you lost $50, John. It's like, oh, you lost a few $100,000. Because when you look at lending, and this is the thing that separates what a great lender is and everybody else, is that level of ownership of their loan. Because if I'm really talking about it, it's the accountability and the ownership that you're giving your word to people. And that's how you build a great company. Every loan, every single time. And that goes also with your employees. Like your employees are like, that's the thing. Like employees all work for an employer because they don't have to worry about making that payroll. They trust in me. They go, hey, these guys are solid people. They have good financial decision-making. So what that usually looks like is at night where you're getting started, like we did back in the day when it was 2008 when Wampler started the business. There's three of us in an office looking together. We're just jovial guys. We're loving life. Just get the loan done, whatever happens, because you get paid your fee. If it gets really bad, they'll charge you back the 2 or 3% maybe you made, or the 1% if you went then, or even less than that. When you're a lender and it goes bad, it's like Chase Bank's like, hey, we don't like this loan and it's $950,000. We want our $950 back. And they only communicate by email. So you can't even like pick up the phone and like, I don't want to be too vulgar, but MF somebody. It's, hey, where's the money? Where's the money, Lebowski? You're getting rolled up in that rug and getting taken outside.
This is because they said they would buy it and they're not wanting to buy it anymore.
So let's go big picture about what makes America a great country when it comes to housing. We really talk about this, that this is huge picture. So back in the day, you used to walk in a bank and I'd say, hey, Tyler, yeah, I know your dad. Dude, shake my hand. Dude, let's get you this house. It's the Fed rate is 4.5. We mark it up 2 points. So your rate today is 6.5. We'll lock you in for a period of 5 to 10 years and pay that thing off and get it going. So as we grew as a country, what happened is we created these different financial products. And that's what has made, like when we talk through engineering and financial ingenuity as a country, we have done things that are totally different than the rest of the world. We have a 30-year fixed rate loan. Nobody else has that, right? My buddy lives in Munich, Germany. The average down payment in Munich, wait for it, 50% down. Google that. Hey, how easy is it to get a loan in Munich? Not.
There's no first-time buyers there.
There's no first-time home buyers there.
Real estate to buy real estate there.
There's a ton of rules in these other places. So when we talk through just speaking about our business and why I think America is still the greatest country in the world, is that we'll empower people to take advantage of this American dream. Because people are so focused on the affordability crisis, not talking about, hey man, you probably don't need that car payment that's $700 a month. You probably don't need the new iPhone that's $1,200. You probably don't need to eat at Whole Foods. You can eat at Aldi, right? You probably could not have every streaming channel possible, right? We could start making these sacrifices because most people make more than enough money. It's just that we have been led astray as a culture about what saving money actually is and what we need and don't need, right? That's what everyone's amazed. They're like, oh, my grandpa made $38,000 a year and he retired with $1 million. He paid off his house, drove a piece of cars that were not perceived as high value. But like, does the car make you a better person or does the cell phone make you the right person, right?
Yeah, he also lived through the Great Depression, likely, and saved every Sprite can that he opened and only drank half of it, put tinfoil on it, put it back in the fridge.
Hey, potentially that, but back as a society, back to where I started this, wants, needs, and pains.
Yeah.
What do we do now? We don't even talk through wants, needs, and pains. We just complain.
Yeah. Complain and get debt. And then complain about the
government. I thought you were going to provide for me.
Yeah.
Right. So back when we look at the mortgage business as an industry, what transpired is that we took it from a bank to a national level. It's like FICO scores right now is a huge controversy. It's a monopoly. We're paying so much for these credit reports for a customer to get an application just to charge them to verify their own information. Think about that. They end up paying when their loan closes to FICO, right? An enormous amount of fee to provide them the data that's theirs. Put that in perspective because it's verifying these things, right? So what's happened is this. We went from a very regionalized, localized lending to now national. That credit score follows you everywhere you go. So as we talk through lending as an industry, where it blew up is that we could not scale and standardize the ability to lend money to individuals, right? We couldn't standardize the ability to grow an economy because think about what one homeowner's impact is to a community. I mean, think about all the hands that touches when you're an agent: title, insurance, utility, stability, education funding. Like look at the schools, like the tax bill that just passed. That's the backbone of our world. Education, taking someone with no skill and giving them a skill, right?
Yeah.
So, and people are always so critical of high school. And I'm like, hey, if you actually look at high school, a lot of schools have vocation centers, but you just didn't participate, my friend. So who's to blame? The books in the library, they probably had that financial peace book of Dave Ramsey or Rich Dad Poor Dad in your library. But guess what? You didn't open the book. You stared at TikTok and did whatever mollywop dances up the window. So as we talk through this industry, it's evolved in a lot of iterations, but now it's one of the best, safe, secure way to get a loan. Because when you think about this, who in their right mind would lend anyone else money for 30 damn years at a fixed rate, right? And the best part is these things appreciate. And the elephant in the room for the American is this. People love to blame and cast doubt and be a hater, right? And say this is not true and not address the elephant in the room, which is it's never been another country where the minimum wage is talked about as it's a crime, but they don't talk. And then the other extreme is the maximum wage is hated on like a crime. Heaven forbid the guy who grew up broke becomes a billionaire. In either way, there's something wrong with that. Wait, but the guy started it where we're at and he made something, right? Okay, let's even go simpler. What about the guy who's got 5 million? Did he commit a crime here as we talk through this world? So as we look at our environment and lending and becoming a good lender and talking about banking, it's all predicated on being in America and how good our country is, because the policies we create, even though sometimes people like to cast doubt on them, can help anybody who follows the means, whether you're from Uganda, China, Mexico. You can create a great life here. And one of those great pieces of it is the American dream, which to me is buying that house and that white picket fence. That's the backbone of our society. And that's what really empowers me to run a good mortgage company, because I love it. And I've seen it in my own life. And that's what ties into that intro about being a real estate investor. I was like, wait, I can buy something for $1 that's worth $4. And then I can have other people pay my mortgage down. And funny enough, at 41, my first mortgage I ever bought is down to $26K.
Still holding on.
Hold on, $26K. I pay $98.
Was that 30-year fixed?
15. But that's where I go with this, is that there's so many success stories from making good financial decisions over periods of decades, not 1 month, not 6 months, not even a year, and you win, right? And that's what I love about the business, is that that's what I think is that if you have a holistic view of being an originator, you're extremely ethical and compliant and straight communicator, and you hold your word as your bond, you can be very successful in this business because of the country we're in, as a long roundabout answer.
I have 2 follow-ups. One is centered around how long do people stay in your industry?
One of my superpowers ever since I was a little kid is I always made good friends. I always had a lot of friends. The problem is being successful as a lender, if we just talk about a probability sake, is not very high. It's extremely hard to break in, especially as a retail loan originator. So our business is based upon building relationships and referrals with people who refer you clients. And that in turn is a totally different skill than just being a good originator, right? Mm-hmm. So there's a couple ways you can get loans. You can call in a call center. We call that a direct model. You call the call center. That'd be like Rocket Mortgage or some of these other places. They get the loan. They don't know you. They say, hey, here's our price. Here's what we can do. The second one is that you can get it through like a broker like we were, or you can get it through a banker, or you can get it through a depository lender. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So all those are the different channels. So what happens though is as you're retail, generate your own business, sometimes people don't make it. So there's a lot of turnover as a loan originator space continuously. And then the next piece that nobody talks about, back what I hit on the beginning, banks fall out of favor of lending. Like BMO Harris shut their residential mortgage team down, shut the whole department down. Flagstar Bank sold off, shut their whole mortgage team down, right? Yeah. So there's just waves of turnover, but our operational team is really the backbone of the business. And we've worked with a lot of these people for a good period of time. And we have pretty low turnover there.
So the forward facing that have to go out and fight to sell mortgages. Yeah. When looking at the successful ones, you go, oh, that's a sexy part about being a mortgage broker.
Yeah.
Is those are the people that turn over often. Do you see them go and be a back end? They go get licenses as a realtor and potentially like the high school and be a janitor. Where are they going?
Yeah. So when you look at the vocation, the skill set, I think about a lot of different sales roles and compare our vocation because I talk to a lot of people. And one of my key things that I'll tell everybody, because so I'm 41, I turned 42 this month, but I'm gonna be doing mortgages a long time. And I've seen this in my life, which is I always try to tell people the 100% truth in what I would do. So when they leave or they change vocations or their company situation changes, they call me because they're like, John was honest, he was truthful, and he always was open with what he was trying to do. So some people exit the business completely. And honestly, I'm like, hey, more power to you. There's no point in being a bad loan originator because you know what that equals? Zero. The lows of our industry, similar to being a realtor, are like.
So let me get this straight. When you have a new mortgage originator join your team, the base is zero.
No, we get.
Is there a runway for people?
We give them like a draw. We give them a starting point, but the issue with salaries is it doesn't teach you the right habits and skills.
Well, we're done with it. We've done it, and it's a complete waste of money because they're leaning on daddy to give them leads and nurse them, and it's like our mama, I guess.
Well, yeah,
we don't want to do that.
To the Roots team members, we do not refer to ourselves as daddy.
Yeah.
Okay, I was gonna say yeah.
I'm saying that's a poor perspective that you have when you put someone on salary that really needs to be hungry to go out and kill.
So for the right people will bet on him.
Okay, but hold on. So look at it like this. This is what it comes down to. As a society, there's two paths that nobody likes to talk about, but this is what I learned the hard way. There's you trade time for money, right? Or you can make money on a sale. And it's called this profit versus wages. It's one of the key ways to wealth because you quit exchanging time for money. So what most people are educated on is they grow up and they say what? Hey, if you work an hour, you get X, right? My first job, DQ, 14 years old, right? I was a terrible student. I was like, you know what I'll do? I'll prove my worth in the real world. And my best thinking was get a job at Dairy Queen. That tells you a real winner right there, dude. Fat boy, eating blizzards, giving my buddies, not good. I made $4.25. I quickly realized cutting grass was far more profitable because I could cut someone's lawn for $20. And if it took an hour, that was like 4 hours at work, right? And I realized this pretty quick because here's what happened to me, unfortunately. When I was 16 years old, the first day I got my license, my mom said I could drive her car. I put my 311 tape in the recording deck or whatever you call that thing, turned on 311, and I piled my car on with my 12 best buddies and rode around. Shit you not. 15 minutes later, rear-ended somebody. Broken, dude. So embarrassed, so sad. My mom's minivan, bumper jacked. I've never seen my dad so mad. And he looked at me and he goes, how much money do you have? I was like, I don't know, $120. He's like, give it to me. You owe me $800 or $850 right now. And that's what started that relationship because it's from the idea as a parent in the modern world is like, if I fight all the battles for my kid, I'll create a winner. If I get the right job, right, that mentality goes further. If I get the right job, the right opportunity, I'll break it loose versus the reality, which is this. We're trying to build up the players on the battlefield with those skills, right? Like that's what habits and routines really teach you. They make you into the person you want to become. It's not by a series of like luck and chance, like we all tell ourselves. Like, I don't know if you've had friends who were rich when you were growing up, like just rich. Like my good buddy, and he might watch this, might not, was Rick Thurston. His first car was a 318i. You guys don't remember this car. It was like a boxy BMW. But then this is what got me on Beamers. He got an M3, blue, white interior. Basically, my brain fell out of my skull. And I said, you know what? I'm not going to be poor, dude. I'm going to figure this shit out. Guess what I drive now? M Series Beamers, dude. Now, I'm kind of phasing out because I'm getting older. But back to the vocation piece is where I was going with this is profit versus a wage. What you have to find to become a successful originator is you have to have that discussion with yourself is this. Are you burning the boats or not, right? Are you ready to commit fully to it? Because the salary is what you're using to mask resource versus resourceful as a successful person. The most successful people, everyone was like, oh, they started on first base. They did all these things, not acknowledging their dad might have actually just coached them up, or they might not even have had a dad. And they said, I have no option other than to be successful, right? I got to kill what I eat. My mom needs money, or my family needs money, or hey, my buddies are all rich and I'm poor. And I'm not going to be the poor guy, right? And so you pick these vocations, and those are the people, right? I always say this. I go, you can, and when I was single, I'd tell my newer sales guys this, and this is cliche, and we might edit this out or not, but I'd always say, what gets you more chicks, man? 6-pack or 6 cars? And they'd always be like, 6 cars. Right. So there's only one good time in your life to be broke, right? And when is it? When you're young and naive. That's why some of the best salespeople I have are actually married guys with kids. Because guess what? They can't be broke at all. And even if I offered them a salary of $3,000-4,000 a month, they go, dude, that doesn't even cover my grocery bill. After taxes, my mortgage is $1,500-1,800. Does that make sense?
So that's why say you have the young guy who's married, has a kid on the way or has a kid already, joins MJW. He has 1 year runway. Let's say 6 months. He's got to be selling mortgages. What would you coach him up on? What to do?
One of my best sold salespeople who doesn't work with me anymore took him 6 months to make his first sale. And here's what happens to people. And this is what happens to all of us. We always think it should be different, right? It's like buying your first rental. It's getting your first sale. You're like, oh, hey, I'm an agent. My friends are going to use me. And what happens? They buy with some person they don't know. And they say, dude, I just didn't think you were ready to work with me yet. Or you had enough business, you know? So back to that piece, what I'll say is you might have to, we'll get it. I'll say this to him. I'll say, you might have to get another job. You might have to drive Uber at night. You might have to stock shelves. You might have to sell
so you just give them
stuff
the
on Etsy. Truth. Yeah, because here's the problem. Building skill really only comes from one way. And this is the piece that nobody likes to talk about, a burning desire. You got to have a burning desire to run through every brick wall, because it's this story of being successful that nobody likes to actually tell yourselves is like the best story to tell yourself that makes you feel warm and hugged at night is I'm special. I'm different. I deserve this, right? We've all said that. And then what's the marketplace say? Business is the only place where the brand new guy and the 30-year vet compete for the same customer. And if you played football or you played any sports in life, the analogy I'd use is it's the freshman versus the senior. What happens? You're in the dirt. Right. You're getting dunked on. You're not making the team. You're walking home because you can't afford a car.
Going back to your discussion of profit versus wage, some people lean in when you start talking about profit. That's the ones you want to bet on. And some people lean away because they don't have that assurance and confidence in themselves. In what you were describing to me, the vision I had about you eat what you kill sort of thing was survival of the fittest. And
no doubt,
the one reality that we can bet on is the natural world where the lion's going to eat the antelope. It's just going to happen, right? The mortgage business, the real estate business is actually no different. And people want to be shielded from that. And that's fine. Go get your salaried job for $50K with your 401k. There's a place for you if you want to be shielded, but you're not really shielded. You're still betting on the hopes of the whole economy to provide for you.
No, what I say is this: when
the reality is always you got to go get yours.
Yeah, and here's the thing about a job that people fail to realize, and it's tough, but you got to remind yourself that as an employee who's non-revenue generating, that's a distinction to make. Is that versus being a self-employed person with many customers? Guess what you have? You have one customer, and they're your boss. And if your boss doesn't like you, what do they say? Hey, come meet me in 15 minutes. Oh, who's that? Oh, HR. Today's your last day. Appreciate the opportunity working together.
The paradox of security. There's actually
it's a paradox.
Very little security in that.
But back to this piece where what I like about being a loan originator, and we can talk broader about this as a vocation, is this. I saw quickly for me that I could make an impact on the marketplace because that skill set and that ability to execute and run a business plan is what separates people. And the other piece why people forget about real estate and mortgages, and this is a tough lesson too, because back to how you grew up, if you have scarcity is a great driver in the beginning of your career because you think, hey, there's only so many sales. If I win, you lose, right? Or if you win, I lose, right? What you don't realize about real estate and mortgages is this. It is so big. There's so much business out there that once you actually get rolling, it's like Max will be like, John, buy 18 duplexes. You can do it, right? There's that many duplexes.
Well, I don't know if you struggle with this. I'm starting to struggle with this idea of I could go spend an hour lead generating right now and make 3x, 5x, or I could service what I have in front of me. The easy thing for me to do is service what I have in front of me. That's mostly what I do because I'm trying to balance. I'm a new dad. Yeah. I want peace. Yeah. And for me, serving the clients I have really well, it gives me peace.
Yeah.
But I know in the back of my mind, I'm like, if I want to make millions, I should be working on expanding the pie.
So let's back out of the mortgage specific discussion and talk through this business lesson I had. Because when we started, think about what I started. I was this ADD guy who thought he was better than he was at writing loans, right? Which what I equated to my kid is when he was like, Dad, I need my football gloves today. I'm like, oh, you think you're sweet, right? He like goes out there, puts his Nike gloves on, and I like give him just the easiest pass. And he like fumbles it. I'm like, real sweet, buddy, with your gloves. Just play the game. What happens is this: as salespeople, you build your ego based on what? One singular thing: results. You make sales. What do you tell yourself? I'm better than this guy. I'm better than these people. And then as you really back it out and you really learn about the economy and your peer groups change, you realize, wait, I got buddies who are spine surgeons and make $2 million a year. I make $200,000 a year. I probably need to have a little bit more humility with what I'm doing. But as salespeople, you're kind of feeble-minded, simple, right?
We're comparing ourselves to our peers.
You compare yourself to your peers, so you elevate your ego prematurely.
And by the way, there's market reports that are click, click. There it is.
Exactly.
Right. Boom, top 10.
But back to this piece about vocation and then opportunities, those are the entry points. But really running a great business, which is the hardest piece, is that you have to surround yourself with people who know these operating structures and these operating procedures. One of the naive pieces you have is that you think you're smart enough or you're better than you are. And that's the classic entrepreneur. That's why entrepreneur sounds sexy. You know how much money I make? Nobody cares, dude. Right? What do they really care about? Do you care about your customers? Do you do a better job? So back to starting businesses, and what I've learned the hardest way is it's really hard to build the structure, the operational structure first. So that way it's not all on you. You're not the HR, accounting, sales, finance, because you build these channels in this team that does it. So as you're firing yourself from jobs, you're elevating your what your real role and responsibility is in terms of leadership.
I like the framework of think of an NBA team.
Yeah.
You start off, you're on the rookie contract. You build up to the All-Star League, and then you're like, well, done playing, going to be a coach now. Then you get into the office, and then all of a sudden you own the team like Michael Jordan, and you just go up the rung, and then you buy the league.
Yeah, and there's some pieces there, but let's go simpler than like let's go to the more specifics, because what you're going to find out though is this: as you go to hire people in the marketplace in the beginning, the best employees are looking for your level of leadership, and that they know there's risk in a company with 5 people. They know there's risk in a company with 15 people. So to really get this whole paradigm is you have to literally, when people say bootstrap, here's what it looks like. It looks like the constant struggle where there's not enough time in the day. You're always trying to generate revenue, and then all the other tasks fill your early mornings or late nights because you got to make money in the day, right? And then you hire some friends or misfits, and then you burn some bridges along the way because you're always like, who do you hire first? My best friend.
Why does this sound like our biography?
And because we are true entrepreneurs on the path. My question is, how do you get out of, there's not enough hours in the day. There's not enough this, there's not enough that. How do you get out of the scarcity?
So this is where this map goes. Because here's how it goes. What a very good friend of mine said to me one day, he goes, John, revenue and expense go in line. He goes, it's only the YouTubers and people who are like, no, dude, it's a hockey stick. Once you make enough money, you can solve everything. No, it goes like this, right? And then you'll have some moments where the market flips, right? It's like in the real estate business, it's the 2 and 10. 2 years, you're going to rocket ship through the moon and crush it. Most years, it's about running a better business versus what we equate it to. And here's the thing. To get there, to make that jump, to build a great company, you have to offer a 401k match at 4% to all your employees. You have to match or offer insurance with, $6,000-$7,000 a year matching to get their costs down. You have to invest in the technology because there's so many people in your space. So that revenue and expense go hand in hand. And as you're building these people, you get lucky and you unfortunately have to trade out employees for average employees to better employees than the best employees. And those best employees like now would be like this. They'll look at me and be like, hey, John, why don't I just do this? I'm better than you. Please get out of the room. You're too crazy. You're going to take me down this wild goose chase. And that evolution only comes from the ability to scale your sales force, deliver great experiences on that product, widget, service, and then also keep upgrading and get to those people. Because guess what the thing about those best people are? They're always employable. They can always get a new job, right? And that's some of the most heartbreaking stuff. Back to my superpower making friends. I love these people, dude.
How do you take that? This is a topic I'm obsessed with. How do you take that A player who could honestly be a CEO somewhere, could honestly probably go found the company but they probably don't want to because they have kids and they have a cushy salary. How do you lock them down? How do you get them to stay in your organization?
So here's a hard lesson, and this is the thing I didn't realize. And back to sports. So in life, here's what you got to realize. There's A players, there's B players, there's C players. And A players, it's like this. It's this thing I'm realizing about sports. What I used to always think as a kid is if I worked hard enough or if I lifted enough weights, I could be good enough. I work out with a guy who played in the NFL. I work out with a guy who was a wide receiver at Notre Dame. I work out with a guy who was a pitcher. And if I got to clip this one because I want to post this on LinkedIn because they're all my LinkedIn buddies. What you realize pretty quick is this. Guess what? My buddy played in the NFL, is 6'8". You know what he told me? If I wasn't 6'8", I wouldn't have played on the Colts. You know what I'd do? Be playing football at Wabash. Right? So you think about these things. There's all those pieces to A players. Sometimes they're born, sometimes they're created. Sometimes it's just in their DNA. There's a great book called Motive that talks about this. Like for me, I love work. Like my wife knows it. And she's like, this dude's insane. Like people know I'll never stop working just because it's who I am. B players, right? B players are good. They can be good managers. And then there's C players who just want to be on the team and they can do certain tasks as well. But it depends on the role and the scope of work. A players create more A players. B players can bring you and make you successful, but they won't build more people up. Does that make sense? And then C players can
B players also attract more B players.
They potentially
and make worse hires.
But let's also say this. Part of the reason that we people don't always seek their real opportunity is peer groups. Like you could actually get people to be A players, but how many times in our life, think about this, and the Commandant of the Marines said this, this is an important point. It said, who's your special forces in the Marines? And I think about this all the time with my team. He said, we don't have special forces. They're like, well, who's the special force? He goes, all my Marines. Because what you think about why, when you really get in an environment where you're pulled up and you have the best people around you, what happens? You wake up earlier. You think twice about everything you do. You hold yourself to a higher standard.
The bar rises.
The bar rises. You create a bigger opportunity for people because, right? Like that's what these companies who make all the extra money do. They can reinvest in their people and teach them the best practice, grow them, right? Like people always say in medical device, we hire copier salespeople. Why? Because they have the best training. They're not scared to cold call. They built that muscle up from getting their ass kicked and getting put in the dirt. Does that make sense?
Well, let me ask you this. Do you think someone can evolve into an A player, or are you born an A player?
Well, so here's the hardest lesson I would have is that the single biggest driver of success and all of it is just who you are and your desire. If you're willing to be coachable and trainable and you have the right mentors around you, maybe you're not the best at math. Maybe you're not the fastest player, but right, if you played out football at Alabama, right, you're probably a pretty good football player. And even if you rode the bench there, you might be able to go play at another school, right? So back to this point is there's so many things about life, about alignment, and we can tie in this God and faith about living a more fulfilling life. And this is not involving this pod, but I'll tie into it. Because here's what it is. We all forget that it's like we are here by really grace in that we're in America. But if you partner with the right people, you learn the best practices, right? Think about this. Some of the richest people in the world, like Bill Gates' dad, there's legendary stories about his leadership. Legendary. Did you ever hear the Starbucks story? The founder of Starbucks was buying the franchise and one of the biggest business people in town was buying it and said, hey man, I'm buying this thing. Schultz, you're out. That's the founder who scaled it. I'm buying this thing. And then his buddy heard about it, like someone through his network and said, hey, you got to go talk to Bill Gates' dad. Bill Gates' dad was like 6'5" monster, super successful attorney. He started talking about it, went to his office. It's like, what do you think we can do? He goes, grab your stuff. We're going to walk over there. He walks over to the guy's office and confronts him in person. And this is an insane YouTube story. That is leadership. Those are the people. Think about if you hang around those people, right? For me, I go the other extreme. I think about when my little boy is 20 years old and he's like, who was my dad? Mm-hmm. Who's that guy? Who's that guy? What time's that guy wake up? How's that guy live on his nights and weekends? Does he shortchange his push-ups? Does he not call people back?
Well, that's more important than how to be a good mortgage broker. How to be a good mortgage broker is downstream from what kind of man, what kind of person you are, right? And it's not only for men. Women too, right?
But all together, right? but that's where I go with this stuff because what I've learned the hardest way is the inside out. Is my goal singularly was to make money and buy real estate and be cool. And in the end, dude, that's feeble-minded as it gets.
The authenticity and be cool.
and achieve these material successes, but not realizing what really lights up my life is community, is passion, is compassion for people, is financial prosperity to help people out. who might not see it coming.
A life
And-
of abundance.
Yeah, and really, it's a life of servitude and being a servant because it's
abundance
fun.
is found in giving too, right?
No doubt.
It's like we've been given life.
No doubt.
We've been given grace being born in this world. It's like we're called to give that up. And I think passion in building business, some people are wired to go move to India and serve the poor. Sure. And I think they should. Maybe more people that are called to do that than do it. Some people are called to build a fantastic mortgage business that helps people own homes and exhibit great character and leadership in that.
And where I go with it is even more fundamental than this, is as we talk through communities and housing and why this is a very important subject for me, is that as a country, we kind of hate poor people. And it's a universal truth. Like, look at EBT. There's food deserts in the hood for a reason, because food banks closed and all the lobbying went to EBT, right? And then the grocery stores who lobbied for those EBTs said, hey, we don't want to serve these people. So now they're eating nachos and Doritos and drinking 42-ounce Diet Dews. Dude, Google that. That's what happens as a society when we get lost track. So it has to be the people who stand up and say, hey, I want to, like, to your guys' message, grow roots. Home ownership proves to be improved communities. Home ownership improves school systems, right? Because you have more of a tax base. Those are all the things that we see. And like specifically in Indianapolis, what bothers me is, like, you look at all the news coming out of Tech High School, what do we say? Oh, that's the hood. Well, why is that? Is it categorical? Is it societal? Is it bad policy? Right? Because
It's
the rich
opposite
people
of what you've explained, extrapolated.
Right.
Like, no leadership, missing fathers, no infrastructure, no role models.
But how do you, okay, let me ask this then. Okay, there's a kid, he grows up with no dad. Who's his peer group?
Bunch of kids with no dad.
Yeah, I mean, that's his network. So that's where I'm going with this as you think about life, is that what I've learned is this inside out approach is that early on, my buddies would still say I'm still the same, but certain levels of financial success are worldly. And then in the end, you can transcend those into really making an impact and giving back. And that's what fires me up about growing a company, is that the lives I can change and how I can take some guy who has every deficiency known to man and maybe never made any money, and I can show him my paint by numbers approach to being successful. I can show you almost to a science, but the issue is this: if you don't have those commitments and those desires, it's easy to not follow through, right? Because that's what follow through is such a big skill.
Well, it takes buy-in, right? You can't put somebody in the passenger seat and take them to the moon unless if they're bought in and stay there long enough.
No doubt.
I mean, we've had turnover within our own team where it's like, we have the blueprint because here's the models of how it's gone. But then you look within of the person that got successful and you go, oh, they were hungry and they were willing to walk home without a car if they.
And that's what's so hard about scaling and talking through going from 15 to more employees than that now, is that there is a lot of heartbreak. There's a lot of tough conversations. And now I just shoot them straight out of the gate. I'm like, the lows are really low. I say it up front. I'm like, but the highs can be really high. But my job here is to show you the way. It's up to you to say, hey, number one trait I talk about is desire. And then number two is the integrity you have with yourself. So if I say, hey, we're going to wake up early.
Because it's a pendulum, right?
Yeah.
You have to have desire to wake up and sell on the days when you have the most money in your account, and vice versa. When you have no money, you have to still have the desire to wake up and sell and get, shit thrown at you.
If you have the desire, but you don't have the character and integrity, that's a recipe for Bernie Madoff, right? So you have to have both. They're equally important. You said the integrity with yourself.
Or like with what I'll tell you. Yeah,
right?
it's a balance. But what I'll say is this: like, if you don't really care about people, every transaction's a unit, a notch in your belt. And what do? People feel it. Be like, that guy doesn't give it.
You get burned out too.
Yeah, you get burned out.
So you have no camaraderie within.
So back to hiring. If we talk through these profiles, here's what it really is that there's certain profiles where certain people are good salespeople. Here's my experience. If you grew up poor, that's a huge check mark. Number one, to be a great salesperson. If you feel like the world has done you wrong and you're going to prove them wrong and you're going to do it by your success in sales.
So the darkness.
Nah, I don't know the dark. It's just different things. But if you maybe have a little bit of insecurity, oh, that's the perfect trio. Poor, world's done you wrong.
Sounds like a lot of dark matter.
A lot of insecurity. You know what you'll do? Whatever it takes. Because you're like, hey, I can't drive this piece of ish car. You're like, dude, it's paid off. They're like, don't care. I'll take a mortgage out for this thing. Right? But that's a successful salesperson. But follow me here. Also, equally successful people are like, think about engineers. Hey, I hate how this green light works here. I'm going to invent a new something. That widget, because here's the whole thing about really running a good business that not a lot of people talk about. Why you don't always have to have great marketing and get word of mouth. If you do such a good job in doing your sales process, because we've talked through kind of business, the industry, now we're talking through sales, but let's talk about running a better business. Why do people love certain restaurants? There's a line around the corner. It's like the Swigs thing. You drive down Meridian, line around the corner, because it's such a good experience that people want to try it. Maybe it's a fad, maybe it's not. Okay, let's follow like another food analogy, Chick-fil-A. People wait in line for that Chick-fil-A, man. That sandwich is $6 and it's not good for you. But back to giving great experiences in our space is what I try to do, is live in a concierge relationship, being available, leading by example with my sales team and to my customers, and then also being extremely available and thorough with our process so that they only can naturally refer. Because like this guy is full service, right? Like I know if you guys were calling me at 8:00 at night, it wouldn't be just to chat. It'd probably be like, hey man, we need you. Tap in the game, coach, because the service is how you grow and build that piece of the business as well.
Yeah. I love this conversation about business development. I have some like lending specific questions I want to get into.
Let's do it. Yeah.
That are just burning on my mind that I think listeners would have to. I think that conversation is great. We probably will return to, because that's who you are.
Yeah.
I want to know this. I talk to people my age all the time that don't own a home.
Yeah.
We have swarms of them.
Yeah.
They're perpetually renting. And, some of them maybe make sense because it's cheap and they're getting on their feet. I'm not saying it's a bad decision, but they want to own a home. Most of them want to own a home someday. Some don't feel like they ever can. And they will come to me. Hey, Tyler, you're the real estate guy. Tell me, what am I already doing? And I guess who I have to introduce them to immedially.
Yeah,
like
lender.
It's the lender. I was like, I can talk you through every home on, from green field to freaking Lebanon. But if you're not lendable and able to be qualified, doesn't mean jack squat. We're not even going to see a home until they're pre-approved.
Yeah.
So like someone, this is a very, I guess, like practical question.
Yeah.
First time home buyer, what are you telling these people that are like, hey, I want to own a home?
Yeah.
What are the metrics?
Yeah.
What do they need to know?
Yeah. So this is a topic we talk about all the time. So first things first, if you're a first time home buyer trying to get approved, the number one thing most people do is that they hold on to their personal information as if it's like they're like getting a physical from their doctor. They're like, I don't want to go. It's like going to the dentist. People will be like, I haven't gone to the dentist in 7 years. Most people don't realize that they actually qualify in the current setup for a home. The issue is this: they've spent so much time searching the web and on the internet. They have all these, they think they know, but they don't. I have to have perfect credit. John, I got student loan debt. I can't qualify. Not true. Hey, I don't have 20% down. I can't buy a home, John, right? These are all the disqualifications that people say ever before they apply. Think about that. Hey, John, I just graduated college. I can't get a home loan, can I? Right? These are all the mortgage myths. And it's a huge issue in the space, because what I have found why most people don't buy a house is they never, ever even apply or talk to somebody. And I think it's twofold. I think it's easier to watch the news and disqualify yourself. And the second part of it is it takes a little bit of courage. It takes a little bit of courage to call somebody and say, dude, I want to buy a home, but I don't know where to start. Like everyone wants to look smart now and post on Instagram like some cool picture in Belize or something versus just being like a normal person and just say,
Equity
I want to know.
Isn't what people are necessarily bragging about, but that's
no doubt.
Should be.
No doubt. But it's that simple. That is the singular biggest issue, because then we can coach and train you. There's certain markets it's not worth buying a home. But here in Indianapolis, it makes sense for almost every single time. Because there's some crazy data I could start quoting and spouting off, like what's a house going to be worth in 30 years? It's estimated out to be about $1.72 million. That's a clip right there, boys. Yeah. That's a clip.
And I believe it.
But where I'm going is this: first-time home buyers need to literally be taken by their shirt collar or by their neck and saying, call a lender, get your credit pulled, let's look at your stuff and make a plan. Because the best part about that piece is we can turn someone from a non-qualified borrower to a qualified borrower in less than 12 months usually.
So, and they also start to listen to seller finance things and want to find a deal and want to find this and want to find that.
Oh my gosh.
It's the average age.
Get a freaking mortgage and buy a home.
Right. But it's what, 32 is the average age for a first-time home buyer?
No, it's way higher than that now.
So way higher?
38 because it's national.
So what, are you looking at courage to that? 38's whenever somebody finally gets the humility to...
So back to where we've talked about all this gamut of stuff today. The average person might not set goals. The average person might not have a plan in place. The average person might not have a friend like you who goes, hey man, I'm going to encourage you to do someday you don't want to do.
I have a tenant right now. 780 credit score makes 4 times the monthly rent. Obviously, I'm fired up. I'll keep these guys as long as they want to be there. But I called him, I'm like, do you want to re-sign the lease or go buy a house? He's like, why would I buy a house? I'm like, because you have a 780 credit score and you make 4 times the monthly rent.
You could be me.
You could have this house for $900 a month and you're paying me 18.
But this is where advocacy, and back where I was trying to rant about being poor people and all this stuff, that is what is the hardest part about the disconnect on the content online to the realities of America.
Here's what I think is lacking. I think the starter home mentality has been lost, because you look at the starter homes they're making and they're $450,000. The ones they're building, Pulte in them, and they're not really starter homes.
But let's call it what it really is. If we're really being honest here, this road to nowhere narrative that people hear, they're like, the affordability. I can't tell you how many people have a car payment that is sucking their net worth dry. Right? I'm not kidding you. I can't tell you how many people get DoorDash. I mean, like there's no food. Like,
the money comes in, it goes straight out.
The people with a cell phone bill of $180 a month. Like, I'm going down this thing from this standpoint. If we really want to fix this
savings rates are negative. They used to be positive in the United States. They're very negative.
But back to this point about first-time home buyers and affordability, that narrative wears me out, because here's the whole thing. And I'll send you guys the graph of home prices increases. And I just did it at our sales meeting today. I did a whole presentation about this. Credit card debt just hit its highest level ever. Guess what also hit its highest level ever? Home equity. Guess what also hit its highest level ever? What nobody's also reminding themselves: paid off homes. This idea that people love to complain about the hypothetical versus accepting the reality. And here's what we all, like the three of us, have to agree to. Just get in the game. You can't, the 80s don't matter.
I'm going to clip up this section and send it to like 10 people.
Because you're going to have to. Because the first time home buyer is not going to listen this far along into the episode.
Exactly.
There's no shot.
There's no shot. But back to
you're
this
all
whole
homeowners.
Point.
I know you are.
Back to this whole point, though. Here's where I'm going. People hate to hear this. Your car's a waste of money. Sell it. Dude, now with these tariffs, you might get paid. Buy a piece of ish car. Sorry. A car with 100,000 miles still runs, turns on, gets you point A to point B. Hey, maybe you don't need whatever new iPhone it is. Maybe you don't even need cable. Maybe you just need your internet and no subscription services, right? Maybe you don't finance anything anymore. And you go old school back to where we started about like my grandfather or anybody else.
Start saving those Sprite
That's
cans.
all those millionaires were made.
Right. Well,
didn't finance it.
But now
they invested in Starbucks.
Yeah, exactly. Now buying a home has never been easier, because the narrative that first time home buyer crisis is such a farce of crap. Sorry, you can't buy your dream home in San Francisco.
I have a home right now in the market that most of my friends would not buy. I'm not trying to sell a home here, but
if Grand Ave is still on the market by time this episode comes out, there is a bigger
2-bed,
issue.
1-bath, better than most apartments in Indy. 2-bed, 1-bath, South Irvington. You can get it for 0% down, and your payment's going to be $900-ish bucks.
So
we have a whole portportfolio that you can.
So let's go over this.
Tell me why.
Let's go where. So this is.
Oh, you want to live on Mass Ave?
This is a clippable moment right here. This is what it is. This is the truth. The average homeowner, the average first-time home buyer, has watched so much content that's a road to nowhere, why not to buy, or why these hypothetical people who sell courses online and don't actually own any of the real estate they claim they do, that's selling them, why you can get a home run deal, or the other extreme, why you can't buy a house.
Right.
And here's the truth.
Narrative.
It's one or the other. And here's the truth. I just got a deal last week. Guess what I got this duplex for? $120. Is that a smoking hot deal?
Whoa.
Yeah. Right? Okay. But let's go to the same.
I don't believe you.
Must be a piece of crap.
Oh, no, it's winter. Okay. But where I'll go with this, if you're a first-time home buyer, and this is the clippable thing, and this will be good. If you're a first-time home buyer, you have to connect with your agent and then actually heed to their advice, which is making the call to get an application in. And that's if your credit is 0 or your credit's perfect. That's if you got $1 million in the bank or no million in the bank. Because us as a profession can guide you to the road to buying that first home. And then as we get that data on you, we can find the homes that meet your budget and criteria. And if you believe that home prices are going to go up, it doesn't matter. I have all the data that will show you what home prices have done for almost the last 50 years.
But John, the interest rates, they're so high.
Interest rates, right. And here's another thing. Back to these people that they forget. Paying off debt or getting rid of it is a pay raise. So it's all about allocation of your after-tax dollars. And an uncomfortable conversation is this. You can't go out to eat and spend $700 a month being social. You can't spend your money on whatever gadget, Wizmo, hobby, clothing thing you want to.
We have to make sacrifices when you're young to lead the life of freedom you want.
Exactly. And that's the key.
Yeah.
Buy in.
Yeah, I just had a coaching session right before I came here, and I was talking about this idea of like, I love leading people, but leading people doesn't lead me to dollars. Here's the first quarter where I did that. And he was like, he pressed me on it. He said, I challenge you to not earn $1 the rest of this year and figure it out. You'll be fine. You'll be totally fine because you're leaps and bounds ahead of where you need to be. And I was like, huh. So, I mean, my task tonight,
I don't know that.
my task tonight is to go see how long, I mean, in the way that he said it was, he was challenging me to see how long I could last because there's so much scarcity that comes in. Oh, the checking account looks low. Oh, the equity's high, but the checking account's low, right? You can't buy groceries with equity. And it's to your point. People are out spending $700 on DoorDash a month, right?
Or
if I had
anything,
your
yeah.
perspective, I'd be like, dang,
Or
I'm so much
interest
further
or
along.
student loans.
So
and
I
that's
want
really what it is.
to share this, and we're going to go to our rapid fire ending questions. But
Yeah.
Kevin Kelly he's like the world's most interesting man. Tim Ferriss episode with him was really good. I think it's once a year. Once a year, he lives off oatmeal and he sleeps on the floor in a sleeping bag on the hardwood floor. And he says, why does he do it? It's because like Seneca has this quote where like he's like, do the bare minimum, living in like the bare minimum conditions. It'll show you like I'm just fine. Like I have my mind, I have my passion, I have my skills.
doubt.
And then you go back to your life of comfort and you're like, oh my gosh, it's amazing. I have a bed. I have air conditioning, right? I can make better food than oatmeal, but it's a good exercise. I haven't been doing it, but I honestly need to because I get scared too. I haven't closed a deal this month. The whole world's burning. I got to go sell anything. It's like, no, I'm actually going to be fine.
Well,
All of a sudden, I'm listening to my freaking stapler on Craigslist.
And here's the whole thing. So think about this. So what you focus on grows, and this is back to this piece, and this is philosophical, but it's the ability to self-console. And back to being an absolute beast of a human being is that ability to self-console no matter what the environment is. The world's burning to the ground. Guess what? Good. Right? And there's so many books and things that talk about like physical challenges, but one of the hardest parts of the modern world is this mental health and being able to self-control when it's like back to like growing a company or buying a first home, all of it. The mental challenges that we face today because people all relish on their cell phones and don't actually be purposeful with connection and being raw is just that is the ultimate skill now is your ability to execute in the face of fear, of not knowing what to do, trying something new, bowling, doing whatever the hell it is, and really achieving. Because just like buying your first home is that, yeah, it is scary, but that's a nurtured skill, right? That's a learned skill to do things in the face when you might not be ready, the timing might not be right, nobody else is doing it, and that's how you win.
And it's really not that hard when you have trusted people behind you. I have a first-time home buyer. We were on showing number 6, offer number 2. He texted and was like, is the fall a better time to buy? Is it just busy right now? And I said, you're 24 hours from getting an offer accepted. I guarantee you. And he was like, what do you mean? We don't have anything out. We just got declined. I'm like, there'll be a house that comes online today. We're going to go see it. We're going to write an offer tonight and you're going to have it accepted. Yeah. Guess what happened? He's going through inspection today.
Exactly. And this is what I say about this, all this stuff is the deal of the decade comes once a week.
Yeah.
And it does. And back to where we're going about home buyers, lending, all these things. You can't time any of the market, and this has to be repeated. You're a participant in the market. Market makers are billionaires, and there's not that many market makers. Right. Think about that. The people who really make the markets are insane. The guy who owns Citadel Capital, he was the biggest taxpayer in Illinois, and then guess what he did? He left Illinois, and the economic output there is insane. Right? It's gigantic for when he left his company and took his employees. That ain't us. That ain't us who's watching this podcast in Indianapolis. We are participants in the market, and with expert advice, you can buy that first home. You can find that upgrade. You can buy that first rental. But the issue is this. Don't be a voyeur. Don't be staring in the window peeking. Get in the game. Reach out.
If there's
and
one
it's
thing
so
I hope
important
listeners
to do
of this
that.
podcast take away, it's that. And everyone needs to hear it. I need to hear it. Like you can't be this window shopper. You have to, and the key, the physical key that unlocks that is relationships.
No, relationships and accountability.
People you love and trust.
Yeah, and do it with the people that you respect. They're like, hey, man,
have accountability. Yeah.
I wouldn't put you in this spot if I didn't think it was good for you.
Right.
I think that there's desires and needs in there too, right?
Yeah, sure.
It's the physical key that unlocks it. But if you don't read about or hear about, the story of what I did, 2020, bought my first house, 2023, sold it for $110,000 gain. AJ, videographer, listen to this. If that doesn't piss you off and make you want to go buy a house tomorrow, like there's no desire there. You want to rent.
Yeah, no,
That's the definition.
well, and what I'll also say is this: is that risk is a learned piece, and it's calculated risk to figure it all out, and that's what we have to work on with those advisors.
I've loved where this has went, and I told you that we'd go to the deep stuff. We're going to wrap up with some rapid fire questions that we use every single episode. John, before we let you go, we like to wrap up with a couple rapid fire questions. Tyler, kick us off with our first one.
What's the go-to date night spot in Indy?
So I've been arguably a socialite multiple different times. What I like to do is just go wherever the newest spot is. So like I'm going to that new Intercontinental Hotel downtown Indy on Saturday, whatever that bar is. They have like a rooftop or something like that. That's where I'm going. I don't know the name of it.
Let's go.
But my wife is like gluten-free celiac, so we usually just keep it pretty bare bones on what go to restaurants. But Ocean Prime, I wish I could drink more. No, I do like drinking, but I don't drink anymore all the time.
Yeah.
But I like to drink if I can.
What's one habit that changed your life?
Marrying my wife, dude, caught not taught. She woke up all the time early, and guess what? Now she sleeps in a little later, and I wake up at like 4:30 every day. So tired.
What's an area of life you're currently focused on growing?
To just faith in that it's not up to me, and that we're part of a bigger plan, and that all we are is participants in this, and nothing's ours, and it's all for God, and give it up. How blessed we are.
Surrender. It's a good habit.
Yeah.
Good one.
How are you working to expand on that?
First thing in the morning when I wake up, because I stress myself off, and I'm a doom and gloom guy and pissed off most of the time, and world of not enough. I wake up and I'm like, I'm alive. I'm breathing.
Hit the gratitudes.
My gratitude. I look at my ceiling. I'm like, oh yeah, that's a custom wood ceiling, arch, white oak. That's badass. Just so like that. Like
You have to appreciate those things.
Oh yeah, start my car and the car's loud. I mean, just like cliche
How many
stuff.
rich billionaires that you were talking about swimming in your own pool earlier before we were talking? I know a lot of people that are absolutely miserable that have their own pools.
So it's your ability to focus, and that's where that narrative is programmed, and your ability to self-console and realize like how good you actually have it. Because how dumb it is when you read that. This is what you got to do if you really want to feel better about your life. Go read a bunch of obituaries for that day.
Mm-hmm.
Born, all their obituaries, they were born, then they died. And if that's how you want to live your life, more power to you. For me, I want to be like, dude, I love my kids. I wake up and have fun. I enjoy this. It's I get to versus have to. Like working out with your buddies. Like, oh, I don't work out today. You're so happy when you do. You're so happy when you call that buddy up and talk to me like, hey man, I appreciate you were just on my head.
Well, and I think you have to think about your own funeral. One, are you going to have a lot of people there? And two, are those people going to be celebrating, happy, or is it just going to be going through the motions, right?
No doubt.
And agent joined our team, Ian, and he said his grandma died. She lived in Princeton, Indiana. It's a town of probably 10,000 people or something like that. And he said he was able to, like, his dad called him. It was like, hey, Ian, like, your grandma's dying, like, here. And he handed the phone. And she was like, Ian, just make sure you keep the main thing. It's about, like, faith and, God and whatnot. And he said he went to her funeral and the whole town was there. Like, the whole place was packed out. And he said the main topic, everyone was just talking about, like, Jesus. And just, like, he said every conversation was about Christ and just, like, how positive it was. That was really moving hearing that story. Because I was like, right now I'd die, and I don't know if that would be my funeral. And I'm like, that would be terrible.
And it was a profound
shame.
It was a profound impact from like a housewife, right?
Yeah.
That just lived a normal life in a small town that made an impact on everybody because when somebody got sick, she made soup.
Well, it's also a societal thing where we judge people for that. And again, it's like, my church, Our Lady of Mount Carmel, says it best. Like, what's your goal as a father, as a dad? And this is what nobody actually talks about in society. You know what it really is? It's not wealth. It's not rentals. It's getting your kids into heaven. And that shook me because you and I talk about, JJ, we could go buy this stuff and make this money, get this deal. Oh, we can go swim today and do. How dumb are we, dude? We are literally specks of dust who are here for such a short period. And then what do we always do? Here's what's wrong. Here's what I didn't do right. And that's where back to what I was trying to focus on. Because again, when you flip the script to get what you focus on grows. Think about that. What you focus on grows. So when you think about gratitude, when you think about how lucky am I? How lucky are we that we're doing this podcast together? Like the three of us are psychopaths who record content and put it out there, right? Which I love. That's what makes life worth living, man, is this exciting things that document this. And it's so cool as you look back at it, because that's the best piece of this too, is when you focus on yourself, and not in the sense of like what I'm achieving, But you go back and watch these clips years later. Like I have my old YouTube videos from like 10 years ago. It's hilarious. Because that's who you're really competing against. Go ahead.
Foggy webcam.
No, my videos were actually elite, but
They've only gone downhill since then. No.
yeah, exactly. Now I talk too much.
We've lightly touched on it just a little bit, and I don't want to let you go yet. The topic of being a dad in this world. I don't think that there's enough content out there. I'm a new father, 6 months into this thing as of today. Shout out Grayson, halfway around the sun. I've learned in such a short time, I have to wake up every day and care. And want.
Or your wife has to care, let's be honest, dude. Let's not take all the credit.
Right. I'm meaning as a dad.
Yes,
to be engaged.
Yes.
Well, the woman has a natural
no
love.
doubt.
You have to actually fall in love with your kid.
Yeah.
And leading, it's like the most terrifying thing in the world is to lead a young little boy, right? How are we going to shape him to be a man? How are we going to show those habits? And that's something that like I never thought of. And I look around, I'm like, oh, no wonder dads are always lazy because they can cop out real quick. You have to actually lean in. You have to engage. You have to be present and intentional because you just can't be a piece of shit, right?
Yeah.
You have to be an image of God to your son.
So here's what's insane. So it's 2000 and I graduated college 2007 and I get this job at this casket company and I worked there for 3 months and I'm like, this job sucks. My sister worked at Career Builder and this is insane. And she goes, do you want to move to London? I have a job for you paying you like 80,000 base. You'll make like 200 grand. I'm 23. I'm so excited. So what do? Parents book ticket, move in with her. But think what's happening. It's brewing. I have no clue. 2008, right? So Career Builder London, huge company at the time, killing it, job boards, job postings, selling. So all of a sudden I get there and I'm working. I'm there 2 weeks and they go, hey, we had an issue with your visa. And in the moment, I'm like, my visa? What do you mean? That was done. They're like, oh, it got denied. I was like, my visa got denied. So then they were like, well, it's going to take a little bit. So they go, I don't know how long. So I had 4 weeks in Europe and I had a moleskin and I wrote out all these goals and it ties into being a dad. And I was like, because you go through these paths and when you have time, people are constructive with their time or unconstructive. And I'm like a goal setting person. So I was writing on all these crazy goals. So like one of these goals I wrote out was like having 4 kids. So that's 2008. I'm writing out these goals. And so it's years later and I find this notebook and I'm reading all these things. I'm like supermodel wife. I think my wife's pretty close to that. 4 kids, building a business, all those are the things you want. But what happens that you have to remind yourselves when the kid arrives, it's the first time, at least for me as being a dad, that you realize like, holy shit, there's a lot more to life than just the things I focus on. Like there is truly a creator. Like this is insane. And then your heart breaks when you hear about kids being sick and things like that. But back to this concept about being a dad is thoughts are things. And the second piece of being a dad, that's the hardest lesson and it's the most challenging thing possible is your kid catches who you are. Mm-hmm. Do you remember that fight you ever had with your dad where you said what you really thought of who your dad was and you saw his face either drop or go beat red? He's like, I'm going to kill you. Like, you don't have any friends, Dad. Or you said some like off the cuff, totally.
Well, your kids are going to know who you really are.
Right? Because your kids, and then your kids know how to poke you. And does that make sense?
It should awake something inside of you. If it doesn't, what does that do? They run away, right? They retreat to what's comfortable. Maybe it's work, maybe it's whatever.
But as a dad, back to this whole thing, society, what you realize too is you're also kind of alone. Because like you can't hang out with people. And then you realize all these masks you put on the society. Once you have that kid, you gotta be raw, dude. Because who are you at 2 a.m? You're freaking tired, dude. And you can't be like, hey, wife, will you get up the kid? She's done it all day. Right? You gotta step up. So back to this concept of being a dad, there's a lot to it. And honestly, that's part of where my commitment and my goals were crystal clear. And for me, really what commitment means in my mind is cutting out all the bullshit.
Right.
Drinking, staying up too late, spending time on the weekends without my family, working out by myself. Like, dude, we did group workouts. We're in Florida last week. Hilarious. Dude, we have these videos, all my kids doing it. But that's how champions are built, right? Because what I want my kids, and when people meet them in 20 years, I want them to wake up and be like, no doubt, Murphy's his dad. He's no wonder he's successful. Versus the idea of, well, John just ditched him and, he had to grow up without a dad because his dad's just a deadbeat. You know what I mean? Like, we've all heard these narratives with people, right? And that's for me, I want to give my kid this life of where he knows about his faith and why we believe what we believe. And I think that's fundamental. That's why I feel like people go away from the Catholic Church. Again, different conversation. Second piece is the habits. Not because I preach to him, because I mean, your guy's dad, my dad would sometimes be like, John, you're a lazy piece of ish, step up. But he knows. He's like, oh, my dad wakes up early. Dead serious. He knows that. Mm-hmm. He's like, oh, my dad runs a business. Yeah, my dad talks on the phone all the time, like to a fault. Those are the things. I mean, that's who we are, right?
Yeah.
But that's what I'm getting at. No, they caught not taught.
They do.
And being that dad and being a good dad and having a big family is not easy, dude. It's easy if you're good at making money and you have money and you say, hey, I can do this. But if you're building a business and you have kids young, it makes you the ultimate business person too. Because guess what? There ain't no plan B. Can't go tell mom, hey, we can't provide for the kid. We got to get you got to go back to work.
Right.
Woof. Right. my wife, think about this. My wife was an eye doctor, dude.
Yeah.
Optometrist.
It's a lot to replace there.
Now she's married some loser mortgage guy
who wakes up broke in the morning.
That's
and
a bit to have on the shoulders. But it's not framing it up as weight on the shoulders. It's more so. I'm struggling to explain.
So no, let's connect the dots. So back to that guy who I started with, who I don't even know anymore, that 18-year-old guy who is feeble-minded, thinking about achieving, making money is how you judge yourself, to the 41-year-old man. I don't know that dude because I kicked his ass. I did everything I could. I put myself in stressful spots. I had the evolution. I did all these things. I've had more growth since I've had my son and got married than I did in the whole part of my life. Because what happens? You got to step up. You can't just tell your wife, hey, we're going to negotiate on everything I told you when we were dating. You know, you got to go back to work. We're not going to get that house, I promise you. I'm not that business guy, that ultimate sales guy I said I was. I was just some deadbeat loser who just lied to you.
Well, you just rose the tide.
No doubt.
So you got to ride the wave.
Got to ride the wave. That's how we win. And for me, I'm obsessed with this kind of thing. And that's how I try to grow. But as a dad, it should be the ultimate motivator, but it also should reconcile where you're at with your skills, that you should know how to make money, right? Like my dream for my kids is they parachute in any city in the world and they know how to lead an org. They know how to make money. They know how to, pitch a tent, a literal tent, and survive. They know how to be happy. They know how to help lift up a community. If that's their thing, they might just be like, Dad, I'm just going to live off you, which heaven forbid, but there might be a possibility. But you get where I'm going here. Those are the kind of things when I talk about being a dad that matter to me, is that I want my kids, when I'm dead, they go, I know his core values. I know what he would expect of me. I know what time he'd want me to wake up. I know like how to do a push-up. Like I always yell at my kid doing push-ups. That's a superpower. If you want your kid to be stronger than other kids, have them do 10 push-ups, 10 pull-ups, 20 air squats, and 20 sit-ups a day. Your kid, you're like, dude, your kid's like way stronger than people. 5 minutes a day at sports, your kid dominates any sport, at least when they're little, till everyone else catches up. Stuff like that.
Yeah, I think the most meaningful image I have from my childhood is we would go like down on spring break to like, we would stay in one of these condos. Like now they get like an Airbnb in a house because like they have way more money. Yeah. But we would go in like these condos. And so you're all crammed up. It's like 3 of us kids or 4 of us kids, depending on which one was born. And we're going to the beach. And before we go to the beach, there's my dad, shirt off, doing push-ups and sit-ups. He's getting the workout in. We just got out of the car. He's doing push-ups and sit-ups. And as a little kid, I'm like, oh, okay. Like I didn't join it. Sometimes we join in, sometimes we wouldn't. But it gets baked in, right? Okay, that goes in the oven. Ding, ding, pop out and you're 20 years old. What does it mean to be a man? That means, even if you're going on vacation, we're going to find a way to get in.
Man by day, man by night. And it's a tough lesson.
Well, you can do a lot of lip service, right? But showing the identity and having that role model is the most important. I'm watching my nephew addresses me and my whole family dies laughing at this. I love it. If he's asking for me, like, where's Max? He goes, Max, puts his phone up to his ear because I'm always closing deals. And Ollie's like, where's Max? He's probably closing deals. And then he'll come find me and he's like, Max, yelling at me.
But that's who you are. And that's where like, and I don't say all this stuff to impress or create content. I say this from this standpoint, and this is back to being a dad. I want to shortcut the agony of the lost lessons that you go through in the idea of trying to figure this stuff out, right? Like I can tell you from experience, there's a lot of ways you can take your life. And one of the hardest lessons I had to learn that is not popularly taught is that you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Mm-hmm. We all think we're
wheels are great.
Yeah, we've already think we're these pioneers, and so what happens is this: you derail your life, right? You go do all these stupid things that you can tell. I'll be like, I can tell you where that takes you, right? It's a bad move, right? Wholesaling houses. Sure, it's okay once or twice, but sometimes you get sued. Sometimes you do some unethical things because of the position you're in, right? Those are unethical things in my mind. And there could be people in here, oh no, John, you're unethical. Okay, whatever. So be it. I'm just telling me, if you tell me you own a house, you don't own it, and then I close it, and then you're like, I have to buy it cash, and you charge me a $56,000 sign fee. Yeah, exactly. Same thing. But where I'm going with this, it's not about creating content. It's the idea that we're creating a roadmap that we can share with others to build them up, right? The how we accept, those are those best parts about this content in the modern world that nobody talks about is you can use your cell phone to pollute your brain, or you can shortcut your life, right? Because this is the thing I'd say to my younger self. John, if you want to get to New York to LA, right? How do you want to get there? Most of us in life walk. We literally walk from New York to LA. When in all reality, what are those blue planes called? What do they call those guys? They do the tricks.
The Blue Angels?
The Blue Angels. You could get in a Blue Angel. That thing goes like what, Mach 200 or something? But you could get to LA in probably like an hour, right? And that is why if you choose the principles, the habits, and the roadmap ahead, that's what you can do. Because there's someone who has done exactly what you want to do. And as I look at those books, there's a whole repertoire to change your life right there at your fingertips. Change your life that easy. But you know what we all choose to do? I'm different. My life's different than yours. I can't relate to that. I'll write my own book, dude. You're not me. You don't know my story. There's 8 billion people, brother. Mm-hmm. And that way I tell you this.
And
do you want to take the hardest? The world keeps on spinning. And do you want to have the hardest life possible? Or you can have like an elf life, which is like easy, lucrative, and fun. Right? Because, you know what I mean? Yeah. But that's what I think for me, what I like content and why, as we talk through this stuff, it's so paramount to share those lessons because not for the ego, but for the impact, right? You can change people's lives. You can shortcut that period of uncertainty, there's moments in your life where you're so frustrated and so angry about your circumstance that you want to blame everybody. And it's just like, no, dude, you're just playing the game wrong, dude. Right? It's like playing horse in the driveway. You had that one buddy who could hit the left-handed layup, and then you went out there and learned it. Same thing for business, same thing for marriage. You hang around the right people, you get better, right? Your peer groups are everything.
Right. The 5 people you're hanging around.
Yeah, that's why being a dad and an impactful dad is so important about having.
You want to look at where you're going, look around you.
No doubt.
Right?
Yeah.
That's why I love that we're here in this room.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Well, thank you for coming on. Where can people find you?
Just hit me on IG. I am Murph Doggy. No, I am Murph Dog. But MJW Mortgage. Look us up. Always love the opportunity. My hashtag that I actually have trademarked is hashtag who needs a mortgage. So if I see you using that, anybody at mortgage people want to sue you, cease and desist letter. But in all seriousness, no, I really do appreciate the opportunity. And hopefully this is impactful for listeners because I know we talked about a lot of stuff and I talked a lot. So I appreciate you guys.
You're a metaphor master. I didn't know we talked about the Blue Angels left-handed layups.
I know. I was about to
say,
I need to hire the Blue Angels to fly me back to Danville. That's all.
You just need a helicopter, dude. But yeah.
Right. Yeah. Get the helipad.
This has been another Roots podcast. Please like and subscribe. Have a great day. Peace.